Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this webinar. My name is Michael Brand, and I'm going to be presenting the session. I'm going to be talking about ESAP, teaching online, and wider world, and those three things joining together. Okay, so that's what we're looking at today, a framework for teaching online, including an example lesson. Okay, so feel free to say hello in the chat box. I will just go through a couple of housekeeping issues before I begin. So we are recording this webinar, and within 3 days of the webinar, you will receive a certificate of attendance. You'll be getting an ESAP pack, which includes a cheat sheet and a lesson planner. The cheat sheet you can see in one of the graphics here. You'll be getting a link to the recording, and also a very handy online guide, how to teach online with Wider World, which has lots of strategies and ideas for teaching online, okay? Many of which we're going to be looking at in the webinar today. I'll just wait for my next slide to load up. I know there are lots of people joining us today, which could explain why the transition is taking a second. You just have to bear with me while my slide loads. Thanks very much for your patience. Okay, there we go. We got there in the end. Hopefully from now on, Click Meeting will play ball with us all, okay? So you're very welcome to continue the conversation about ESAP and teaching online on social media. You can see a couple of hashtags at the bottom of this slide, and these are the ones you can use if you want to tweet and to post online about this session, okay, and about the ESAP framework in general, okay. Just do feel free to say hello in the chat box. I've got a little as a little kind of warmer with you. I've got a little frame here for you to use, so that you can say something about yourself. Some of you have already done this. So I've got a little, again, a sentence here, and you can fill in the gaps. You can say, hi, I'm, and then put your name, from, and then put your country, and I like, and then you can put one thing you like doing. Okay, so do feel free to say hello to your peers in the chat box and to me. Tell us something about yourself. And once you've written in your introduction, have a look at what other people are writing and see if you can find somebody you're having something in common with, okay? I can see a few of you are writing in the chat box. I can see a good morning from, let's have a look. I'm from Warsaw, Poland. This is Beata. I like listening to music and reading books. Hey, Daisy from Peru, and she likes basketball. Wow, we've got somebody from the other side of the world. We've got somebody, Namaste, from India. Well, we've got people from, let's say, both sides of the world, which is wonderful. We've got the Philippines as well. Reggie from the US, who lives in Germany but likes skiing. Dolores from Catalonia. Very warm welcome. Hello there, Rita, as well. Hey, Walter from El Salvador. Wow, what a variety of countries we've got today. And from Egypt as well. Sandra from Croatia loves swimming. I like swimming too, Sandra. We have something in common there. I like swimming too. Hey, MJ from Argentina, who likes reading. Okay. Very good. Right. So I just wanted to know something about you to begin. And of course, this is the sort of thing you can do with your students. They say something about themselves and they look for things that they have in common, and you can do this online as well. I'm going to move on. I'm going to say something about myself, but I'm going to do it as a game. I'm quite a fan of guessing games. So all of these numbers say something about me, let's say professionally. One of them's slightly more personal, but they say something about me professionally. I'd like you to have a guess in the chat box what these numbers could say about me. Now, this is a very open activity, so you're going to have to use your imaginations, your creativity here. What could these numbers say? I am 39. That could be my age. That could be my age. I think that's a pretty good guess there. What about the other numbers? What could they refer to? Teaching experience, 11 years. Yeah, have 11 children, yeah. On the way, but not quite up to 11 yet. Yeah, 11 years in the profession. I think that's, yeah, it's a good guess, isn't it? A few of you think I'm 4 children. That's slightly more manageable than 11, I guess. Somebody says I've got 2. 2's not one of the numbers. Yeah, I've been with Pearson 6 years, Walter says. Okay, good guesses, guys. There's time spending abroad. Well, you know, in a roundabout way, you've got close to most of them, actually. So I think it was Walter who guessed that the 6 referred to how long I've been working for Pearson, which is true. That was nearly 6 years. Touchwood in May will have been 6 years. I've been working for Pearson as a teacher trainer. Okay. For somebody guessed children. I don't have 4 children. I only have 2. But I've lived in 4 countries. I've lived in England, in Britain. I've lived in then Austria, then France, now Spain. So I live in Spain now. 11. So the 11 actually referred to, when my slide can load for me. The 11 actually refers to 11 months. So 11 months is the time that I've been working from this desk, from my little cave. Normally with my job before, I did lots of traveling, but traveling obviously is not happening at the moment. So I've been working from home for 11 months, but I'm not here to complain because that does have lots of advantages as well. And one of those advantages, again, I do hope my click meeting is going to speed. Somebody else has got 4 children. Okay. Well, so double me. My 39 has to do with the live classes project I teach on. So live classes is a project where you teach online lessons to students from all around the world. And those lessons can be students in their classrooms, live classes, or students in their houses individually, big live lessons. And I've taught 39 different countries. And it's always a pleasure for me to rack up a new country and meet students from somewhere new. Okay, so 39 is the number of countries I've reached teaching live classes from this desk. Okay, so live classes then, when we get on to my next slide. Somebody says, wow, yes, it's amazing to do. It's an amazing project to be on, to teach students all around the world and learn about how different they are and their different ways of behaving and approaching the lesson, but then everything we have in common as well. And above all, the students like to meet one another. They find that very, very interesting. And often at the end of the lesson, they'll be sharing contact details and stuff with their new friends. Okay. And I do have a slide actually to show you. It's just the platform seems to be taking a little while to load the slides today, which can sometimes happen intermittently. So I do hope it's going to speed up. Yeah, so this is my live classes slide. It won an Elton, a British Council Elton recently. And in my live class, I actually use the wider world material, which is what I'm going to be basing my lesson on in today's webinar. Okay, so somebody says they participated. That's wonderful to hear that we've got some live class teachers here. If you'd like to learn more about live classes, and if you'd like to sign up your class to, as Alejandra, yeah, I recognize a few names in here. That's great to have a few familiar faces. I feel like I'm doing a webinar with people I know. Feel free to sign your class up, sign your students up at the website english.com/live classes, which is just loading now. Okay. He says. Yeah, you're very privileged. Thank you for your help here, Vera says. I think we can see the slides earlier than you. You are in a privileged position there. So I think I will actually just, if you say you can see can you see the web address on the screen? Yeah, somebody says, yeah, Vera. Okay, so then you're right. You're right. So you can see them. So do go there and sign up. Okay. Onto the next slide. So in the session today, we're going to be first of all looking at what ESAP is and a bit of background. Then we're going to you'll notice from the logo in the corner that it has 4 stages. We'll be going through each stage and getting a few ideas for each stage. Then we'll move on to planning a lesson, planning an online lesson. We'll be moving then to the portal, which is an online platform. We'll be looking at the resources that the Wider World course offers there. Then I'll be talking through teaching an online lesson using Wider World. And finally, there'll be time for questions. Okay, so those are the items on the menu. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is part of a series, this webinar. I know some of you have attended more than one webinar. So you may well have attended Magda's fantastic introductory webinar. So I know there will be some people here who have already had contact and who have already met this ESAP. So I'm going to get you to do a little activity rather than just explaining at you. Okay. So there's a little text here. Please read it and then see if you can fill in the gaps in the chat box. Okay. What is ESAP? Oh, Berta is off the mark quickly. Thank you, Berta. She said ESAP is a methodology. Okay. A methodology being the procedures and practices in teaching and the principles that underpin them. Okay, so a number of you have got the first one right. You've said it's a methodology, yeah? Okay, let's go on to the second bullet point then. Okay, Berta's gone to number 5 and she said it's online. Yes, ESAP is the idea of the reason of being is to help teachers plan and deliver online lessons. So we've already got the first and the 5th one. We just need to fill in the second ones now. Yeah, well done. Leah says present, practice, produce for the second. Yeah, well done for the second one. And now we just need a couple of dates really, or decades actually. We just need the decades, which is questions 3 and 4. So PPP's been around since the 19. ESA followed in the 19. See if you can have a guess on the decades. Yeah, Dolores says 1990s. So actually, that's number 4. Actually, so I'm gonna reveal the answers here. So ESAP then is a methodology, as we agreed. Then I've just been in the second bullet point. I've tried to talk about different methodologies. So many of you, or many will be familiar with present, practice, production, which is a common methodology taught to teachers when they're training, and indeed used by teachers. That's been around since the 1970s. A similar sort of time when let's say the communicative language teaching movement or methodology began. ESA was devised by Jeremy Harmett in the 90s. Okay, engage, study, activate. Perhaps building on or refining PPP, which was sometimes considered too prescriptive, perhaps too teacher-led. And you've got this engaged start of the lesson to tap into what they already know and to tap into more of an effective domain rather than beginning with a presentation. Okay, and then ESAP is something we Pearson again have built on ESA, bearing in mind the needs of online teaching. So there's an extra stage, as you will see, the P at the end, but we've considered what these stages mean in an online environment, because as we know, that became of serious concern for us last year, and it's spilling over into this year as well. So what we want to do is to show how a well-known methodology in face-to-face classes can be used in online lessons and what adjustments we need to make. Okay, so that's the idea of ESAP. Okay, so I want to go through the different stages, the 4 different stages. So let's look at these stages and what they mean for an online classroom. The first one then, engaging your students, will involve some kind of warm-up, trying to connect with them personally. So this could mean you're asking them how they're doing in the chat box, and then calling on them to expand on their answers. Perhaps you might ask them what the best thing they've done today is, or the best thing they've done since the last lesson was. Okay, trying to start the lesson with a nice warm atmosphere, let's say. As well as that warmer, we want to activate language, see what students know, relevant to what the content of the lesson is going to be, do some retrieval practice. So there's lots of things you can do here. You all have your favorite activities to start a lesson. Perhaps you could get a student from the previous lesson, a student to take a word from the previous lesson and define it, and then the other students guess what that word is by putting it in the chat box, and then the one who's defining it can confirm or say guess again. Things like you can use the private message function. I use the private message function a lot with my students. You can give them individual feedback, but also you can play games. So I might ask my students to all send me an answer to a question, such as, where are you going to go on holiday this summer when this is all over? And they all write in their answer, and then I read to me directly, and then I read out an answer, and the other students guess who it belongs to. Okay, again, finding something out about one another. Okay. Other things I sometimes talk about is if you've got their cameras on, you can talk about what you can see behind them. Okay, and ask them questions about about their house and look for little clues. Okay, so that's a nice way to start as well. You want to see what their prior knowledge is before beginning the lesson. So, for example, I'm about to teach a lesson on places in a town, and I want to know what places in a town my students already know. So, of course, I can say, well, put in the chat box anything you already know, any places you know. I might give an example first: castle, police station. Another way of structuring this is to say to all the students, right, I'd like you to think individually of a place in a town that you know. Okay, put your thumbs up when you've thought of it. I'd like you to write it in the chat box. Put your thumbs up when you've written it. Now I'd like you to send, and then they all send. And the idea you're trying to do there is to give them all time to think individually, a bit of the kind of think, pair, share, rather than just saying generally put ideas in the chat box. You're trying to get them all to come up with an idea and then send it at the same time. Okay. Other things I've started the lesson with, the topic of the lesson, perhaps an acrostic poem. So I taught a lesson on technology, and the students using the annotate tool on Zoom had to write words across related with technology. So they used the T for computer. They used the E for email. Okay. That's another engaging activity. Other things I've done is sort of again, you think of a word that you know around the topic. So I start with the ball, and again technology, and I say email, Juan, and Juan catches the ball and then says mobile phone, and then he throws the ball to Sarah. And he says Sarah, and then Sarah catches the ball and says printer or something else related to technology. So it's a way, this is something the students can play on their own. Okay. And this, you get them diving around to catch the ball. It's just theatrics, really. But again, a great way to start the lesson. So we all have our favorite, I think, engaging activities. It could be a type of game. You might start the lesson with a quote, start the lesson with a picture. You might tell a little story or an anecdote, play some music, make predictions. And some of these things I'm going to be demonstrating when I move on to my lesson. Okay. The next, the next stage of the lesson is the study, which is, if you like, new language, what you might consider presentation and controlled practice. Although presentation doesn't mean that, the teacher has to launch into a long explanation. It could be more of a discovery approach. And indeed, I would caution against really long explanations on online lessons. I think teaching in general should be active, and lessons should be active, and that's even more the case online when they're a bit further away and you need to work a bit harder to keep them with you. Okay, good. So there's another thing to say about the study time is to give students time to think and to practice. I mean, I've tried to model that today. Like perhaps some of the slides were going a bit slowly earlier on, and there could be a temptation to say, well, forget about that, let's just move on. But I think it's good to try to be patient with students as well. If you ask them a question, just give them time to think. Probably when I started in online lessons, I was too quick to move on. And there's also some lag to do with technology, so it makes sense to give them time. Okay. And finally, in the study phase, you can use the tools that your platform offers. So the whiteboard is very useful for whole class feedback. We're going to be using the whiteboard later. And the chat box is useful as well. You can send messages to the chat box for class feedback, but you can also send individual messages for individual feedback should you want to. Now, the Activate part of the lesson refers to freer language production. So perhaps putting into practice what you've been practicing on, what you've been learning. Breakout rooms are a great resource for this stage of the lesson. I use them extensively in my online lessons because obviously they enable pair work and group work. I'd say one thing to bear in mind with breakout rooms is that the task needs to be super, super clear. The students need to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and what they're going to be expected to show after the breakout room. Okay, and again, we'll look at that example in the lesson later on. As far as possible, these tasks can be personalized. The students can talk about themselves, their context, some things that are relevant to them. These Activate speaking tasks, and we want to encourage them to put into practice what they've been learning, to actually use the language they've been working on in the study phase. So one simple example of this is having them in breakout rooms, having some of the target language, let's say, up on the screen, and having two students doing a speaking task and another student in there ticking off language that they've used, a kind of a referee. That would be one example of encouraging them to use the language, a kind of forced output type activity. Okay. Now the final phase, which we've added onto ESA with a P, it refers to practice, and particularly practice in an online environment, in an interactive environment, using a tool such as My English Lab or the Pearson portal, which we're looking at today. These are activities which develop student autonomy, let's say. Interactive online exercises. Now this means that a student can do an activity for practice and get feedback, so get his activity corrected, and not only see that they've got like 5 out of 8, see what they get right, see what they got wrong, and also get tips on what they got wrong to try to do better next time. Okay. Grades being reported and put into a grade book so the students can monitor their own performance, and the teachers also have access to this, of course, so they can monitor their student performance as well. And then the teacher builds up lots of information about their students, about this online practice they've been doing, see where the students are doing well, not so well, and they can use that information to inform their upcoming lessons. Okay, and one of the advantages of using tools like this is that they save time on marking. Now, when I was teaching, I would spend the first few minutes correcting paper workbook activities, which is okay, but there's another way that it can be marked online, and we already have all that information before we start our lesson. Okay, so we'll be looking at activities of this type as well. Okay, so that was just a quick talk through the 4 stages. We're going to move into to looking at our lesson using the ESAP framework and the Wider World course for teens. I've built my lesson around a lesson in level 4 of the book. Okay, this is my lesson plan. I'll just give you a few seconds just to skim read it. So splitting the lesson into 4 stages has helped me to plan and helped me to order what I'm doing. You can see I've put in the activities that the students are going to be doing. I've put in how we're going to be doing feedback, whether that's going to be chat box, nominate. I've put in other tech tools I want to use in the lesson. Got a Mentimeter in here, a YouTube video as well. And I put in the timings as well on the left. You can see how much time I want to dedicate to each part of the lesson, the study part being the longest. Okay, practice I've just put 1 because that's what's happening after the lesson, and I will assign students work there, but I'll just quickly mention it at the end of the class as well. Okay, so that's my plan. This is one of the things that you're going to be sent after the webinar. Okay. Yeah, there is discussions on the feedback to the performance of the role play. Somebody's asked, but we'll see that when we go into the lesson. So we're going to go to the portal. So I'm going to share my screen now. For the duration, while I'm screen sharing, while I'm on Google, I won't see the chat box. So I won't, for now, I'll be leaving you in the hands of my colleague, Anya, who's going to be looking at the chat box, but I'm going to be sharing my screen and going online. But I will be back with the PowerPoint presentation later on. Okay, so just let me share my screen, share my sound as well. Okay, good. There we go. And I'm going to go to a browser. So the first website, I'm going to make a quick pit stop before I go to the portal. And I just want to point out the ESAP website, which I encourage you to have a look at. I just typed in ESAP Pearson in Google and it came up, but the website will be available, the URL at the end of this webinar. And this is just, if you're interested, this is further, you can do some further reading and further watching here. This webinar series this is where you may have registered for the webinar. There is one left actually. Magda has a webinar using ESAP with high notes, which I highly recommend. I know she's got lots of fantastic ideas. And then there are videos by Lindsay Warwick, who is an author of the Pearson course roadmap and the upcoming course formula. She has a video here where she explains, just a 3-minute video explaining ESAP. There's a video here which is, I think this one's a little bit longer. I think it's about half an hour, explaining online tools for use in the classroom, like things you can do with Zoom. And then she's got short little videos which explain each of the stages. Okay, so if you'd like to find out a bit more, this website has got lots of information about ESAP. For now, I'm going to go to the portal, english.com/login. This is the Pearson English portal. Now, it will sign me in automatically. If you've not already got an account, you can create one there at english.com/login. I'm Agatha Trunchbull. That's my alter ego in the portal. Okay, so this is an online platform where teachers and students have all the resources around their course. Okay. It has other features as well. For example, it has integration with Zoom, so you can actually schedule your online classes from the portal. You don't need to go into Zoom. You can do that from here as well, and then the students can attend them from within the portal as well. So you synchronize your portal account with Zoom. Okay. So we're looking at Wider World though for now. So I know I have just about every product going on the portal. So you see mine is pretty jam-packed. I suppose yours won't be quite so full. But I'm going to go down to Wider World, which is the course I'm using for the lesson I'm going to showcase. Okay, so here you can see the teacher resources. They've just been moved actually to the portal, so 1 or 2 of them are coming soon. From here you can download your Active Teach, which is your presentation tool, your interactive presentation tool, so the students can to project the book if you like. You have all of the different tests and exams around the course here, which you can download as well. All of the audio tracks. There are PowerPoint grammar presentations for all of the grammar areas on the course, which are due to be uploaded very soon. There's a booklet which explains how the course is mapped to the global scale of English. There is also an area here for for online teaching resources. So the guide that you're going to be sent after this webinar, Teaching Online with ESAP and Wider World, will be here. There are videos which demonstrate the methodology. But all of the teachers' guides and resources are on here as well. There's a test generator coming, which means assigning tests online. So all of the assessment material, you can mix and match to create the test you want online, and your students can do that test online. And all the videos are here as well. They're also on the Active Teach. Okay, so those are some of the resources on the portal. I now want to look at actually teaching my lesson. So, excuse me, I'm going to go into what is the Active Teach. I have it ready here. Now, the Active Teach, then you can download from the portal, and one of the things you can do with it is you can save changes. So you can, when you log into the Active Teach, you can create a file, and that means any changes you make will be saved. And that's what I've done for this lesson. So I've already got the file ready on my computer to access, and I'm just going to click OK. All right. So in I go. And here you can see sort of the landing page of the Active Teach. It has all of the different units, from the course, the student's book and the workbook, lots of resources along the bottom, and the pages themselves here at the top. So my lesson is in Unit 1, okay? And it's page 16, I do believe. Here it is. So I'm going to click on it, and this is my page. Now you'll notice it's a bit small to read, so of course I can zoom in, and you'll see I've added a few things to the screen. So the first thing I've added here is I've used the hide tool. So you've got this tool. You may have come across these types of tools before, where you can make boxes and then you can put them in the bin when you don't need them anymore. And what I've done here is I've just hidden the lesson goal. So I always start my lesson by explaining what the students are going to be learning in that lesson. And here we've got I can. What are the students going to learn how to do today? And I'm actually going to go to, I put in a little hyperlink here, and I'm going to begin my lesson with, wait for it when YouTube loads for me.
Deja de creer en la suerte y empieza a crearla con las supercuotas de Betfair.
Lesson with just a little song, and while I'm playing that song, I'm going to have students guessing in the chat box what the lesson is going to be about. Okay, so I only played you a few seconds of the song. You may have seen it was with a little help from my friends. So the students can have a listen and then guess what they think the lesson is going to be about, and then I can remove my black sort of block here, put it in the bin, and the students can see today we're going to be learning how to ask for help. Can you help me? How to offer help? Would you like some help? And how to respond to offers of help. Yes, please. Okay, so that's what the lesson is about. Now, the first exercise, as you can see here, says, can you remember the first day at your school? What was it like? Okay, so how am I going to approach this activity? Well, again, I've used one of the links to the folders on my computer here, and I'm just going to open it. And I am going to tell the students about my first day at school. And I'm going to tell you now. So here you can see me looking a little bit more fresh-faced. This was a few years ago, my first day at school. And one of the things that happened was I had my French lessons in this tower. And one older boy came to me and he said, you will need to use the lift in this tower. So you'll need to buy a lift pass to use the lift. They cost £1. And I thought, well, here's this older boy being very helpful, and I gave him my £1 so I could use the lift. But of course, there wasn't a lift in the tower. He tricked me. So that's what I remember from my first day at school. People selling me lift passes for a lift which didn't exist. So my first day at school was confusing. Now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm asking students to share something about their experiences, their personal lives, their emotions. And I like to go first when I get the students to do that. If you want them to open up, then it's good for you to do so as well, I think. And it can also give them a bit of inspiration. Okay, so there you are. I've shared my first day at school. Okay. Now I can ask my students what their first day was like. I could get them just to write in the chat box, and then I could ask them to expand. I could get them to write an adjective in the chat box. Another way of doing this, again, just to give a different idea, is to use a Mentimeter. So when this loads, you can actually do this. So I'd like you teachers to tell me what your first day at school was like. So if you go to menti.com on your computer or your phone or whatever, and you type in the code that you can see at the top of the screen, you should be able to give me a few ideas. So what was your first day at school like? Go to menti.com and use the code that you can see at the top. Okay, we've got some answers coming in now. We've got some answers coming in. Okay, here we go. Oh, discovery. Yeah, school is a time of discovery. Yeah, a bit scary, somebody said. Oh, exciting's leading the way at the moment in first position. I felt good. I'm pleased to hear that. Yeah, mine was challenging as well. Trying to negotiate phantom lifts. Let's get a few more. One day only. Okay. That's one day was enough, was it? Yeah, nerve-wracking. Yeah, I know what you mean. No, I mean, and this could be, I suppose with you guys, I haven't specified if I'm talking about your first day as a student or your first day as a teacher. Okay, because I think that would be an interesting one to do as well. I felt good, enjoyable, very, very pleasing to hear. Okay. Somebody felt insecure. Okay. Yeah, somebody had to do lots of cleaning. Okay, good. I'm going to move back to the active teach. So this was just a way of getting the students' opinions, getting some vocabulary as well, as an alternative just to putting it in the chat box. And these Menti word cloud. I know in these sessions sometimes people propose lots of tools. Maybe you've used this one already. It really doesn't take any time at all to set up. Here I just typed in the question and got the link and shared the link with you guys. Okay, so it is very quick, and it's a nice way of brainstorming, you know, seeing what they know, seeing their opinions, and that there's more than just the word cloud as well. There are other tools, but if you've not used it as well, it's worth checking out. Okay, so there you go. So we're engaging our students now. The idea is this is the engage part of the lesson, right? The final stage in the engage is this exercise 2, which says look at the photo. How do you think she's feeling? And I'll get the students to write some, again, they can just write an idea in the chat box here, another adjective. So I might give them the structure saying, I think she is feeling gap because gap, and see if they can write a sentence around that structure, you know, and I think she's feeling shy or insecure because she is facing the other way. She is looking the other way. She has her arms around her body. Okay, good. So that was just the engage part of the lesson. We're going to move on to the study part of the lesson, and that starts off with exercise 3. So they're going to watch a video here, and I'm just going to show you 30 seconds of the video in a second. I would point out that this video, well, the Wider World course has different types of video, 3 different types. It has authentic video from the BBC, sort of documentaries, cultural programs. It has Vox Pop interviews, real interviews with people in the street. And it also has a kind of, let's say, soap opera style program, which is semi-authentic. It's created for the course. And this is a story, runs throughout the book. And speaking structures and grammar structures are contextualized in this video, okay? Now, it's an ongoing story. So I would, whenever showing one of these videos, I would say to the students, well, what can you remember from the last episode? And in the last episode, they were getting the bus to school, okay? The exercise 3, as you will see, has a gist task. So it's always good with a video, I think, to get a gist task, just to get them to react generally to it before moving into language-based tasks and picking out language and structures. So the gist task here, the gist tasks, is this one. And I can get you to try to do number 1, actually. You can probably work out number 1. So I'm going to play the video through screen share. Okay, so just let me click on it.
Okay, here we are. Do you need anything else?
No, I'm fine. Thanks for your help.
Good luck with the head. I hope you're in our class.
Catch you later.
Okay, there you go. So I'm not going to show you the whole video. You can see, oh, something was in the air between those two students there. But I showed you the start, and you could see that it was about asking for help. That's the sort of language that's contextualized in there. It may be that you didn't see the video, you saw the video with some kind of lag. There are many people in this webinar, and this can mean that videos can be choppy. So when I teach classes, I approach this in different ways. If it's a small class and we've got good connection, then I can share videos using screen share like I just did then. Another option is the students actually have access to the videos themselves. So as we'll see later in my English lab, all of the videos on the course the students have. So you can just say, right, I want you to go and watch that video and we're back in 2 minutes. And then they will be able to watch it from their own computer, and there won't be any kind of lag issues. So that's another way of approaching it, okay? Other general things I would point out, over and above what's in the course, is to ask them questions like comparing the school to their school. So they're getting a school in the video, how's it like their school, okay? Okay, good. So let's move on to language. Let's move on to the language which is contextualized in the video. This is a box, a study with the relevant structures. I'm just going to zoom in so it takes up just about all of the screen. That's okay. And once again, I've used a few hide boxes just to see if I can get the students to guess what the rest of the phrases are. So I'd get them to read these phrases. There are 4 different types of phrase, 4 different functions, and there's also a be careful. Now, the be careful here, what they need to be careful of is the structure looks negative. So would you mind helping me? No, of course not. But no, of course not means that you don't mind, which means you will help. Okay, so that's what they need to be careful about. And again, you can use these boxes basically to create your own gap fill whenever you want. So I just want to see if they can spot the rest of the phrase rather than just giving them the phrases. I'm going to try and elicit the missing words from them. So these boxes are useful for this type of task. You can also hide parts of a picture and get the students to guess what you're hiding behind the picture. Hide part of the title, get them to guess what the rest of the title is. You can use them to hide things you just don't want them to see because you want them to focus on something else. Okay, so they're useful for those purposes, I would say. Okay, good. So the next thing to do is, once they've had a look at those phrases, is to find the phrases in the script. Okay, so we've got the script for the video here, and we want the students to find them. Now, they could do this individually. If they have their book in front of them, of course, you can say, right, I'm going to put up a timer and give you 5 minutes to find all of the phrases, or perhaps 3 minutes in this case. But they could also do this actively in the lesson. So one way is, if you're in a Zoom class, Zoom has an annotation tool, and you can assign the 4 different areas: asking for help, replying, offering help, and replying to the offer, to 4 different students. Give them a different color, assign them a different color, and they can underline the phrases that they need to look for. So they're working collaboratively. The other students can be commenting in the chat box whether they've got it right or wrong. So you could have them underlining the phrases using the platform. Of course, the teacher could also do this. So the students could be writing them in the chat box, and the teacher can be underlining and checking with the students that they've done what they were supposed to. So let's have a look. I've started underlining here. I've started underlining the red ones. Do you need anything else? Do you need any help? So these are offering help. Then asking for help. Let's see if I can find any more. So what can I do for you? So that's what I wanted to underline. What can I do for you is my next one. Okay, there you are. It's done a slightly different red, but it's okay. So the teacher using this tool, the Active Teach, or the students using the Zoom, can be underlining the phrases, finding them in the text. Okay, and of course they've heard them in context, so they're more meaningful, right? When they've found all the phrases here, they're going to move on to do a bit more practice. So that is, let's have a look, exercise. Well, first of all, I should say, we can actually check their answers. So when they think they've found all of the phrases, we can check the answers using the clicking on the activity in the active teach, which is what I've just done here. And then they move on. We're still in the study part of the lesson, move on to exercise 5. So here we have the students trying to complete a dialogue using the phrases from the speaking box. They can do this individually, and a fast finisher task could be for them to try to expand the dialogue, to try to add detail to it. There's also extra practice here. So the teacher's resources comes with lots of, for this course, lots of worksheets, lots of sort of PDF worksheets, and you can add these onto the active teach. So I've put a little link to my worksheet here, and I'm just going to open it. Here it is. It's just it's a worksheet where the students have to use put in the target phrases into different dialogues. Okay, so this is something that you can share with the students in the Zoom chat box. You can put it on a Padlet, you can email it to them, and this can be extra practice in the lesson as well. Okay, so that would be all of my studying. That would be all of the you know the practicing and the more controlled practice with the new language. The next part of the lesson is activate. I'm just going to let you read the activity, which is activity 6. So it's if you like, students reading these situations, but they actually have to come up with a dialogue themselves. So it's freer, and then they have to perform. Okay. So let's imagine then we're going to send our students off to breakout rooms to do this task. One way of giving them instructions would be to say, right, exercise 6, I would like you to prepare a dialogue in breakout rooms, and then when you come back, perform it. Those are my instructions. Prepare the dialogue breakout rooms, and then when you come back, perform it. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to go back to the webinar, and I can see the chat box now. And I would like you to tell me in the chat box, do you think there are any other instructions I should give to my students? So the instructions I just gave were go to breakout rooms, prepare a dialogue, and perform it when you come back. Those are my instructions. Now, I think I could give them a slightly more detailed instructions there. I think if I gave them those instructions, the task might not be done that well. Is there anything else that I could tell my students? Somebody's saying model the activity, time limits, use the language. Yeah. All of these things I agree with. All of these things I agree with. So I'm going to share my screen again. Just give me 2 ticks. Here we go. And I'm going to go back to the active teach. Now what I've got here, I've got a whiteboard on my active teach, and on my whiteboard I've got 2 dialogues. So I'll just let you read them. So I've got 2 example dialogues here, and I'm going to act them out with my students. I get a student for each one to do the dialogue with me, and then talk about the different ones. Which one is the best and why? And the one on the left is better, as I'm sure you will have noticed, because it includes the target phrases. It is more polite. It has extra details. And it's clear in what you're asking for, okay? So using the target language, be clear in what you're asking for, be polite, and add an extra detail. Now that can be my success criteria for the task right there. So we say, these are the 4 things that make the one on the left better than the one on the right. I want you to include these 4 things when you do your dialogues. And that means that when they come back and perform them, their peers can assess them and say, well, you did these things, but you didn't do this quite as well. As somebody mentioned in the chat box as well, I would also want to give them a time limit. And while they're in their breakout rooms, I'm going to be sending them messages telling them how long they've got left to try to keep them on task. Okay. So yeah, a bit more setup is what I was getting at there. A bit more modeling and more specific instructions. So important for breakout rooms. Okay. Right. So that then when the students have performed that, then that would be the activate stage, and they can give feedback to one another. The last stage of the lesson is the practice stage. And for this, I'm going to go back to the Pearson English portal, because the practice stage, remember, is online practice. Online practice with feedback and automated grading. Okay, so if you will just bear with me while I navigate through all my different courses here, and I'm going to go to My English Lab. Okay, and that's what I'd like to show to you for the last stage of the lesson. Okay, so this is my fourth of ESO here in Spain, 4th year of secondary school class. And here I've got all of my units and different types of activity, different sections for each unit. You can see at the bottom, I've got all of the video resources for the course as well. So the students here can watch the videos, as we said. The activities that I'm going to assign are the ones that relate to the lesson. So these speaking activities, I'll just click on a few. So you can see the kind of things the students have to do. I'm going to click the student view here. This one is putting the phrases in order, as you can see. I'm going to click on the second activity. Again, I've switched to student view. This activity is categorizing the phrases. Okay. This activity here is matching up questions to answers, and I'll just do a few so you can see what I mean. So this exercise is too difficult. Can you help me? Okay, so I might get. Let's have a look. I think I'll do this at random just for speed. I've answered a few of them, and then once I've answered my questions, I would submit. Okay. Oh, I haven't done very well. I've only got one right. But the main point here is that the ones that the students have got wrong, they're going to get a little bit of a hint or a tip so they can do it better next time. So that they will click try again and then have another go at the activities that they got wrong. Okay, good. So I would, again, I can click on the activities I want to assign to my students and click on the assign button. Choose if I want to set the activities to all my students or some. Maybe some students need more practice than others, so it can be, I can personalize it, choose my date for when it's due, and there are other settings I can configure as well if I like, or just hit assign, and that means that the students will get the activities in their accounts, have a go at them, get their feedback, and then all of the activities, all of their grades, all of their performance will be saved in the gradebook. Okay, so I'm just going to go to a class where I actually have some grades. Okay, so here we go. I've got my students, I've got the different units, I've got information about their scoring generally, and if I like, I can go into a unit, go into a section, click on an activity, and actually see how they've done on an individual activity. Okay. The stars here relate to the difficulty of the exercise. Okay, so the activities are graded according to difficulty. Okay, so this is where I get all the information about my students. I can download all of this to Excels and Moodles if I want it in different formats. Okay, so that would be my practice part of the lesson. The students reinforcing the language at home, online. Okay, good, and that would be. If I can stop sharing and go back to the click meeting. We've got so many different tools here. Going back to the click meeting, and that would be the practice stage of my lesson. So that was my example lesson using the Wider World course, using the digital tools available for Wider World, and following the ESAP methodology throughout my class, and at times integrating the odd other digital tools such as a Mentimeter, although they're not essential. Okay, good. So just before we move on to questions, I'm just going to go over the housekeeping again, just to remind you that the session is being recorded, and you will be receiving an email within 3 days with a certificate, with a link to the recording, and with lots of resources of the type we've been looking at in the lesson today, in the webinar today, to help you with your online teaching. And also to remind you that, or to encourage you to get involved on social media. You can talk about the content of this webinar, you can talk about ESAP, wider world, ideas for online classes, whatever you like, but do get involved in the conversation online, okay? So, and that's the web page, the ESAP web page. So that really brings me to the end of the session. I hope I've been able to explain the idea behind the ESAP methodology. I hope you find it helpful to think about structuring your lesson into the stages we've looked at today. I hope we've learned a few strategies to actually to carry that out. If you do have any questions, you can fire them into the chat box. There's still 3 minutes left. People are saying thanks. Are the Pearson English live classes free? They certainly are free. Yeah, very much so. I encourage everyone to get involved. It's a wonderful project to be on. Teaching is so much fun, and the students really enjoy meeting students from other countries. So that's like, yeah, sign your class up to a live class. Yeah, of course, yeah, definitely free there. People are saying thank you for coming. You've given me an hour of your time, so I thank you. Thank you for attending the webinar. Okay, thanks. Hope there will be another webinar. Do attend Magda's webinar later this week. You can find it on the ESAP website. She's got so many good ideas. Be well worth checking out. Somebody's asking about getting the book. I would say your local Pearson representative or the Wider World website. I can also leave my colleague Ania to field questions about getting the material. Are there going to be live classes during the Southern Hemisphere winter? Well, the live classes finish, the last classes are in May, and they begin in September, October. So that's when they're on. Once you start, you get addicted to webinars. Is that Walter? Okay. Okay, I'm glad you found it, Marta. I'm glad you found it important information. That's nice to hear that it was useful to you. Okay, people are saying thanks. I don't think we've had any more. That's okay, Maria. My first webinar, really enjoyed it. Oh, well, welcome to the webinar, the little world of webinars. Yeah, hopefully you can get a lot out of a webinar, a 1 hour webinar. Yeah, people are saying thanks. Well, look, thanks to you guys. Thanks very much for coming. Thanks for giving us your time. I do hope you've learned something in the webinar. And again, I do encourage you to follow it up. You'll be receiving your packs. Check out the ESAP website and do check out Magda's webinar as well. Okay, so I'm going to sign off. I wish you a good day and all the best for 2021 as well. Okay, goodbye everybody.